On this episode of Purposely Curious, I sit down with my dear friend Marci as she walks us through her mental health journey. She shares how her diagnosis led her to grow even closer with her father, who understood her more than anyone due to his own experiences. And I hope that with time and more conversations, we can all look at our health in a more holistic approach to include our everyday mental health. So join us as we discuss this interesting topic. Get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, everyone. On this episode, I have Miss Marci. Hi, Marci.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hi. So she is a friend that I've had that I met through my brother. And I was asking her if it was okay if I mentioned that she and my brother dated. Now, this was little kid stuff dating. So it wasn't like, how old were you guys?
I think we were like around 13,
Yeah.
14. Yeah.
Little kid stuff, but she, I've always had her like on Facebook and Instagram, so we've kind of been like friends in that sense throughout the years, because that was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have her on because, I kind of followed a little bit of your process as far as like online with your Crohn's disease. And you were telling me about other things that come with it, like colitis and other stuff that you have. So I thought
Yeah.
it'd be really a good conversation to have to kind of discuss, your journey and what you've learned from this. And then maybe some of the listeners can also learn about some of the stuff that you're going through. What do you think?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, obviously, I wanted to talk about Crohn's disease, but I don't know if you feel like that would be a good spot to start, or do you feel like, what was your first diagnosis that you were given?
My first diagnosis, I want to say, was the Crohn's. Because I was diagnosed when I was 21, but I was already having symptoms when I was 13. I was hospitalized when I was 13 years old. They did all the tests possible, but they couldn't figure out what I had. So, coming from a Hispanic family, my mom always thought, oh, she just doesn't want to go to school. She's just lying about her stomach hurting. So for years and years, like, we never knew what was going on with me. Till
So
I
what were your symptoms at that
The
age?
symptoms at that age was like excruciating stomach pain. Like, I mean, the worst ever. I can compare that to maybe pregnancy, like when you get pains
Mm-hmm.
when you're a child. I mean, I don't, you don't know what that's like, but I mean, if there's listeners out there who have had kids, they can probably relate when your child is literally on your organs and stuff, and they're just pushing on stuff. So it's just an excruciating pain. It was always like fatigue, nausea, vomiting, all that good stuff. But it didn't really hit till I was like 21,
Mm-hmm.
where the bleeding started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you actually bleed from your rectum. And it was pretty scary because I didn't know what was going on. So then I got hospitalized for about a week and a half. And they did all the tests again, and they didn't know what was going on till they did a colonoscopy, and that's how they found out.
Mm-hmm. And so they told you at that point you had Crohn's disease.
Yeah, but when they told me, you know, I didn't know what it was. Like, I just said, "Oh, okay, it's not cancer, so I'm cool."
Mm-hmm.
But then my mom started crying, and then it was kind of getting even more scarier because it was about like six doctors, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute. It looks What's going on? Like, why are all these people all of a sudden coming in?"
Mm-hmm.
So then they explained to me a little bit more that it's actually a little bit more serious. It's something that I have to deal with all my life, and I have to be on medication all my life. At the time, they did tell me that my colon, because it has to do with your colon, it's my large intestine. They thought that they were going to have to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were going to remove it, I was going to have a colostomy bag.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now explain to us, what did the doctors tell you? Like, how does Crohn's disease work? Like, what is it that's not properly working?
So basically for me it's my colon. My colon gets inflamed a lot, inflammation. Um till this day, I kind of like wonder if it was because of how I ate back then when I was younger. Because now as an adult, I can't have spices, I can't have grease. There's certain fruits and vegetables that I can't eat. For example, like lemon, anything citric or acid, like I can't, acidic, I can't eat none of that.
It irritates your colon or your
Yeah.
stomach?
It irritates my colon and my stomach. So
Mm,
it's a bunch of like, first it's my stomach, obviously because it passes through my stomach, and then it goes through the colon. So my stomach will start getting inflammation, then it'll go down to the colon,
mm,
and then I start to bleed.
yeah. And the bleeding is like from irritation from the inflammation.
Yeah, and I'm talking about like you're bleeding like, not to sound like gross or anything, like if you're having a period, that's
Mm.
basically what it's like.
So that would explain why you felt fatigue
Yeah,
from loss of blood.
yeah,
Yeah. So now you were having these episodes throughout your teenage years and you get diagnosed at 21.
yeah.
And you said at that point, all these doctors came in with a treatment plan. And so, like, what is the treatment plan for Crohn's disease?
So there's a lot of treatment plans. At the time when they had told me when I was 21, my treatment plan was going to be on a medication called Remicade, which was basically an infusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to infusion clinic, sit there, get the medication pumped through my veins, and then everything would be fine. So I started doing that, and it started working. But unfortunately, I'm the type of person that when your body gets used to a drug, it starts rejecting it. So it began to reject the drug, and we were back to square one. Then I got they not diagnosed, sorry. They prescribed something called Humira, which is basically a needle, and I had to inject it either on my thigh or my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And that was working for some time, but of course my body decided to reject that. So that stopped working. So finally, we hit like the third type of medication, and so far, this medication, it's called Entyvio. It's the same thing. I have to go in, sit down in the infusion center for about like 3.5 to 4 hours, and get it pumped through my veins.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, that's what's been keeping me, I guess, alive, if you want to call it that. So I have to do that every 8 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's every 2 months.
So is Crohn's disease an autoimmune disorder?
I'm guessing, I mean, there's just so many, like, I don't want to say conspiracies, but so many theories of like how people get it and where it comes from. Um, to be honest, I think it was genetic. I think it's genetic because my great grandmother, she died of something concerning with her intestines.
Mm.
But back in those days, they didn't know, they didn't have the proper, tools or testing to find out what she had.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I think it's genetic, but other people would say otherwise. I don't.
Yeah. And I guess now let me talk about the social aspect of this. So here you are, you're young, you're getting diagnosed. And did that make you feel depressed when they finally got a diagnosis? And or did you feel some relief that maybe now you had a diagnosis and people are going to now believe you? Like, how did you feel? I mean, I'm sure it's a bunch of emotions to go from.
Like and like when they told me, I I honestly was like, oh, okay, like, sure, okay, I have to take medicine. No big deal. I've done it before. I didn't understand really what they were telling me and what I had to go through. But now that I've been diagnosed since I'm 21, and then I'm going to be 31 in August, it's going to be like literally 10 years that I've been doing this. So, I mean, in the beginning, I was fine about it. But then after that, of course, like it started, I was getting more depressed and stuff like that. And keep in mind, like I was um, diagnosed after the Crohn's, then I was diagnosed with the bipolar type 1 disorder. And I honestly think that when I was diagnosed with that, it had to do with a lot of other stuff. But um, I think the Crohn's kind of like made it come out more, like my bipolar side.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, because it was just so stressful. I felt like no one understood me. Nobody understood what I was going through and like how painful it is. Because it's something that, you have to deal with. It's chronic pain. It's something that's always going to keep going. It's never going to stop. The only way it's going to stop is if you take drugs, which meaning like narcotics, and they don't really prescribe GI doctors. At least my GI doctor can't prescribe me narcotics, pain meds for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always like, take Tylenol. Well, Tylenol is not going to help me with that type of pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then you said you got diagnosed with bipolar.
Yeah.
And how did that go about as far as how did that
Uh,
meet?
I think when the whole me going to the infusion centers, and then keep in mind I was 21, so he was already like 3 or 4. My son Jacob, he was already 3 or 4. So having to be a mom, having to finish school, having to go to work, and then having to sit every 2 months to get like drugs pumped into my system, it was too much. One day, said to myself, yeah, no, I need to talk to somebody, because I couldn't talk to my parents about it because they weren't going to understand me. We come from I was born here, but my parents were born in Central America, and they come from a country where it's like, get over it type of thing. You have kids. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in pain, so what? Do what you have to do, kind of a thing. So, going to a psychiatrist and talking about everything that I went through, that's how they were able to determine that, I was bipolar type 1, which is a manic type,
Mm-hmm.
which is also like super, it's irritating because it's like highs and lows.
Mm-hmm. Now, how would you explain a manic episode for those of us who, don't know?
Uh, let's see. In my life, it can be the most smallest thing. The most smallest thing. For example, I feel like most of my manic comes out with my kids, which sucks because I wish it wasn't like that. But when they don't listen, or when I'm asking them to do something, or they'll tell me, yeah, I'll do it, and it doesn't get done, like just that will tick me off like completely. Or if just something goes wrong, like somebody calls me and they tell me something that will trigger it, then, I will become manic very, very quickly.
Mm. And so, what do you do if are you able to recognize when you're in a manic phase?
Mm, now I am, because my kids tell me right
Mm.
after, like, hey, like, why do you get like this? Like,
Oh.
it's not a big deal. And then I'm sitting there like, really? Did I really get like that? I don't think
Mm.
in the moment when I'm getting like where I'm manic, I don't think I could recognize it
Mm. Yeah.
because it's normal to me.
Yeah. And so now, how did your parents react when you had got this diagnosis? We come from a Latino community, right?
Yeah.
Where, people joke around that, on TikTok and stuff like that, like where they're
Yeah.
like, if you say you're depressed in our
Yeah.
culture, they're like, that's because you're not doing shit. Get up and clean the house. Like, you
Yeah, of course.
what was I mean, what was their reaction? Was it like kind of like a cultural thing, or were they very understanding?
Well, see, it's not, I like to always say this is a funny thing, but it's really not. My dad is more Americanized than my mom.
Mm.
And my dad is actually bipolar type 1 as well.
Oh.
So when they found out that I was bipolar type 1, it kind of like, I don't know, for my mom, it kind of like lit up a spark in her brain and was like, oh, okay, well, this really does exist. And I didn't really know about it. I feel like even though my dad got diagnosed, I feel like my mom didn't really believe or understand it until I got diagnosed.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably understood what you were going through. And when the
Yeah,
diagnosis came, he was probably like, okay, this explains this, that, this, that.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, so,
yeah. He understood a lot, and a lot of the stuff that he confided in me. My dad is suicidal. There was many attempts when I was in high school, and I didn't know about it till one time I actually walked in, kind of.
oh my God.
Yeah. So that's kind of another thing that adds on to my like whole plate of, you know, my life. It
Wow.
was not the best thing to walk into, but um, I mean, it kind of taught me a lot.
Hmm.
So,
And you don't need to talk about it if you're uncomfortable.
oh no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Honestly, like back then when I was younger, it was uncomfortable for me. But now that I'm older and it's actually kind of like a relief to talk about it
Like
because I don't,
therapeutic.
yeah, very therapeutic because I want people to learn, and know what people are going through. Like, there's people who act, social, they laugh, they go to work, they shower, but people don't really know how they are at home when nobody's watching. Like, they could be the most fun, coolest person, and nobody would have ever known that they're super depressed.
Hmm.
So,
And how old did you say you were when you walked in on your dad?
I think I was like 15. I was
Wow.
15 or 16. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was in high school.
And did you understand that that's exactly what you were walking into? Or, I mean, that's like,
Um, Not
that's,
really.
yeah.
Not really, because he told me later on in life,
Oh.
because my dad takes pills, and I guess the time that I walked in, he had drank a bunch of pills.
Hmm.
So to me, I just thought, oh, his pills are all his pill bottles are on the table because he's taking his medicine.
And so, fast forward, he's telling you this. How did you feel knowing that? Now he's confiding in you that he did that.
Uh, it was kind of like a slap in the face, because if he would have, passed away, I would have blamed myself because I could have stopped it in some way.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. And so, now that you and your dad realize you guys have the same diagnosis, do you feel like that brought you guys even closer?
oh yeah, definitely, because I understand him and he understands me.
Wow. Yeah.
And when you actually have somebody who's able to understand what you're going through and how hard it is to be alive and especially take care of kids,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of like it feels good because somebody understands what you're going through.
Yeah. I didn't know any of this, so I'm like, oh man.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. You've seen a lot, been through a lot, and it's like to have your father understand you. And maybe your father always wanted someone to understand him and to find it in his daughter because you guys have the same diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's probably a relief to him too. Um, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. We understand each other so much more now that I'm older, and we're able to like joke around about stuff, and but at the end of the day it's like I totally know when he can't get up and go eat and go shower. I get it. It happens to me too. So,
And are your parents still together?
yeah, they've
Yeah.
been together for, man, I want to say 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've been together for a while.
Yeah. And for, when you're bipolar, you said type 1. Obviously, you hear in the media more, there's a lot of celebrities or people who are famous who are openly talking about their diagnosis, normalizing mental health, right?
Yeah,
That's something that I've always kind of talked about. You will have people who judge therapy. Sometimes we just need a person outside of our core people to just hear us out on a neutral basis, right?
yeah,
But the fact that it's being, how do I explain it? There's this newer generation is focusing more on mental health versus, let's suppress our feelings. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I thank you for coming on here to discuss this, just because I know there's still a lot of judgment out in the world from people who, for some reason, just don't see it as an important subject.
Oh, of course.
So I do, and as a nurse, it bothers me when people minimize it.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as treatment for bipolar, what has worked for you?
Oh, man. I think when I was diagnosed, I was what? I think it was right after being diagnosed with Crohn's. So I want to say maybe the following year. I've honestly been through all the drugs in the book. Um, because like I said, I'm one of those that the drugs or your prescription drugs, they'll work, but then your body gets used to it and they'll either stop working or they want more. So I was one of the ones that have gone through a lot of drugs, and finally being 30 now, um honestly, the only thing that I can tell you that works for me that I've also been keeping up with is something called gabapentin, which is a muscle relaxers. Um I think my milligrams are like 300 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
And so far that's what's been helping me uh a little bit more, because I also take a patch which is called, it's called MSAM patch. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but this patch is actually a patch given to people who are schizophrenic. I'm not schizophrenic, but my psychiatrist thought, hey, why not? Let's give it a shot. And yeah, it has been working. Am I consistent with it? No, I'm going to be real. There's times that I'm not consistent with taking my mental health medications. And that's just because I get tired of all the pills I have to take, all the medication I have to take. I get over it.
Mm-hmm.
But then something snaps me back to reality, and it's like, wait, no, I need to get back on it and I need to take it. So, I mean, so far this has helped, the patch and the muscle relaxers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what do you have as far as advice for people who feel like they have kind of like they feel like no one gets them, they haven't been diagnosed with anything, or maybe they just no one's listening? What advice would you give, especially the young ones?
Um, I'd say somehow try and find something within you, like maybe someone, to kind of like push you, give you that nudge. Cuz for me, it was my kids, you know. I wanted to get better for them because, I felt guilty. Till this day I still feel guilty of being bipolar and having anxiety. It's overwhelming because I feel like they don't see me as a normal mom. I have so many outbursts that I feel guilty because I wish I wasn't this way. They deserve somebody like a mom who can be normal. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people are like, well, what is normal?
I
But
was
for
I was
me,
thinking that.
yeah, but for me, normal would be someone who doesn't have overreactions or triggers or irritation, you know, you, that type of stuff. And I know some moms get it, but mine is constant. Mine is all day, every day. It doesn't stop.
Mm.
So I'd say just if you're able to find something within you or within somebody else, somebody that's super important to you that, you know, can maybe push you in a way, not maybe not physically or, verbally, but something in them, I'd say just try your best. I mean, go get the help. If you're able to recognize it, then get the help. If you're not, I understand, because it took me a while. I didn't recognize it for a long time. So, because I've been honestly feeling depressed since I was super small. I want to say like 10 years old.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Depressed. So I have one of my best friend's daughters was like, she likes emo music
Yeah.
now, but she seems like a happy kid. I mean, so I'm thinking of her. I'm not saying she is, but like, did you just feel sad? Or did you feel like you didn't fit in with
Yeah.
anyone?
I want to say I always felt like I never fit in. Especially going to private school. You know how it is.
Yeah.
If you don't have money in a private school, you're considered the poor kid.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, it was me and my sisters, so money was tight. I didn't always have brand new shoes all the time, and I just didn't fit in. I felt like I never fit in. I always got made fun of. Um, it just not fitting in. I think as when you're younger, just not fitting in is kind of like the thing
To trigger it.
of, yeah, kind of like, I want to say maybe the trigger of things, because as a kid you want to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
You want everybody to play with you. You want to be the cool one. But if you're not the cool one and you don't, people don't want to play with you, it's like, it's a trigger. You get sad.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of myself at that age, like my father was an alcoholic growing up, and I remember like school was like my getaway from home.
Yeah.
My dad would drink from like Friday to Monday. Like it was just bad. But it was for school was for me was just to get away from home at the time. And it does your childhood, regardless of what we go through, does mold our brains. Because I have certain issues I deal with as an adult now because of my upbringing. Like my
Yep.
mom tried to shelter us as much as she could, but we joke around like our daddy issues in my case, right?
Yeah.
I'm a certain way because of the experiences I had with my dad. So I commend you for, just talking about openly. It's one of
Thank
the,
you.
like I yeah, like I'm not even sure like how to go about this conversation. You really, I didn't know any of this about you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you, again, like you said, you don't really know people, what they're going through behind or what they've been through, right? Like we may be in a better place now, but shit, we've been through shit, like stuff like that. So right now I'm kind of at a loss for words, to see that you went through all that at such a young age. Um, and I appreciate you talking about it, do you feel like it's changed your way of parenting? Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Because I mean, I mean, like we said, we come from a Hispanic background. Um, stuff like this, it's like get over it. And I have two boys, and my 5-year-old is autistic, and I didn't know till I got him tested. So it's like I wish my mom or my dad got me tested earlier on, you know, because maybe things would have been a little bit more different and a little bit more better
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's changed a lot. I'm super open. You know, my older one does therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's going to be 12. So he does therapy. Um, Sorry if you hear in the background like noises, that's my dog. She wants to play. So she's like getting her squeaky toys.
That's okay. But you were saying he's in therapy.
Yeah, he's in therapy for like they're helping him manage his anger.
Mm.
And I started noticing at a young age that he was super angry. And well, of course, like I said, it has to do with when you're young. If you don't fit in,
Right.
your your brain starts kind of like, I don't know how to say it, like kind of like you just repeating, you don't fit in, you don't fit
Mm-hmm.
in, kind of a thing. And that's what was going on with him. So, once I saw that, I said, oh no, you need to get the help that you need to get. Because I know that getting him the help earlier on, it's going to help him. It's going to benefit him a lot.
Yeah. And you saw that right away based on your experience as a
Oh,
kid.
yeah,
So
definitely.
there.
I was able to like see it
Mm-hmm.
right away. And I was like, oh yeah, this is, yeah, we need to get the ball rolling on this because my parents didn't do it for me. And well, look how I turned out.
You're a beautiful soul, Marcy.
Thank a, a lot of
Don't you
people
forget
might
that.
not think a lot of people might not think that, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I honestly appreciate you opening up, to us and to my listeners across the world. Now, keep in mind, it's not a huge, I have solid listeners, but I'm not like excessively huge. So I don't want you to get nervous all of a sudden.
No, dude, you're totally fine. Like, I mean, even if you have one listener, like that's 1,000 people to me, and you
Yeah.
should be proud of yourself.
Oh, thanks. And I appreciate the fact that you're openly talking about it, and like we talked about our culture, and I'm sure there's other cultures out there that might be listening, where with what I think a lot of people through COVID kind of got a taste. It might not be the same, right? But people were going
Yeah,
crazy. They can't go out, and people were
yeah,
getting anxious. Oh, I feel lonely. I need, now just imagine that every day for years. You know what I mean? Like mental health is very important. And so regardless of where we all fall, mental health, like it's not, people think of mental health as like it's only a problem for certain people. It's a problem for all of us. We all get depressed, whether it's a breakup, a divorce, we lost a house,
yeah,
Mental health is focusing on our mind and our thoughts. And again, we can't control them all the time, but it's okay to take care of ourselves, to take a mental health day if need be. Guys, call in sick if you need to. It's
Exactly.
not just because you're feeling like, oh, I have diarrhea, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes we need that mental health. And employers need to get that. Like they don't, I know in California, they don't need to know why you're calling off, but
Yeah.
fucking take the fucking day, even if it's for mental health. The
Of
job will be
course.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the job will still be there. The dish, like I like to tell myself, the dishes are still going to be there. They're not going anywhere. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, how would you say, how would you say, has this affected your social life? As far as like, do you have a lot of friends, or do you tend to be like just more to yourself, or do you feel like people don't understand still? Like, where do you stand on that?
Um, Honestly, I can count my friends in my hand, my 5 fingers. That's how many friends I have. I don't really have that many friends. At the time, I was like the only one with kids. Everybody else was still young, enjoying their life. So I kind of got used to being alone because nobody had kids. Like all my friends were, partying, enjoying their 20s while I was here taking care of a child. So
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of learned to cope with it and, just I had my sister. My sister's my best friend. I'm gonna be honest with you. And if she listens to this, she knows that I love her to death. Because if it wasn't for her, and of course my mom, but mainly her, um, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. Because she understands me 100% when it comes to, getting pregnant young and having kids young, and the struggle. Because she had my nephew when she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So my first son, Jacob, I had him when I was 18. So I was a little bit older than her, but it gets it's lonely, when you have kids at a young age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's okay. I learned to, be alone, be by myself, not have that many friends, and I'm perfectly fine, honestly. I don't really need that many friends. I keep to myself and my kids and my family, I guess,
Yeah.
because family's number one for me.
Yeah. Yeah. For most people, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for
No,
most
but
people.
not
Yes.
every family is nice though.
No, not every family. And I like to say, like, it's funny because my family's so dysfunctional, super dysfunctional. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast and talking about what's going on. And I wanted to touch one more thing. Have you been following the Britney Spears thing?
oh God, yeah, I have. I honestly, I feel so, gosh, I want someone to like help her. I don't get it. Why? I don't get it. She has like strong, evidence and everything. I don't understand why a judge can just sit there and be like, nope, we're going to just refuse it.
Yeah.
Why can't they just give her a chance,
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
it doesn't work out, then we understand, but at least you took it off. You gave her a chance to be, the adult that she is.
Yeah. And so now with her getting a new lawyer of her choosing, this lawyer is going to be more aggressive because the one she had for 13 years, which was court appointed, didn't do anything for her. So I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of things are going to start happening. My thing too is that this is I think it's a good thing because conservatorships are, this affects so many people, and mental health is a big role to this, the purpose of conservatorships, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's dementia based, but sometimes people say like, oh, well, they can't take care of themselves because they may have schizophrenia that's really severe, or it just,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good thing because people are talking again openly about what could this mean, and maybe educating people that maybe didn't understand a lot of these things,
Of
So,
course.
yeah, hopefully there'll be some justice done and some reform in the system, because the system doesn't always work.
Oh no,
And
it
it
doesn't.
definitely doesn't seem like it's working in her case, and so that's why I feel like maybe this is gonna, like make the laws maybe change so that people aren't being taken advantage of. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I hope it works out for her, her new lawyer, because she deserves it. I mean, I think her dad has been taking control of her life for a long time, so I
Yeah. Yeah.
think it's time.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, thank you so much again, Marcy. And if you ever want to come back on and talk about any other subject, you let me know. You
All
did
right, sounds
great.
good. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. That was episode 66 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on most podcast platforms, and follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely C Pod on Twitter. That's Purposely, the letter C, Pod. Until next time, you know what to do.